Alrighty. Whoa. Live show
Hello.
tonight. Yes. Hello. We are on.
Yep.
What number are we on?
I don't know.
44? I think it's 44. I should know this. I put the title up earlier and I just kind of... Yeah, no, 45. Wow. Episode 45. Coming up on the big 5-0 soon.
I almost had something witty right here. I didn't. Sorry.
So it's... We're really good at this. So definitely didn't know... When did they save these things? We've been doing this over a year now by the calendar, for sure. So we're getting close.
Yeah.
Should have a date. Don't have it. It's not our anniversary show, but it's pretty. It was around. It was a couple months ago. We'll call that a win.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary, Dan. That's what I want to say.
What do you do? Is it diamonds or platinum or how does that go?
I don't know. Better lighting. Do I get myself a new microphone? Is that what we do for the anniversary? I don't know. I got no idea. Let's start this stupid thing.
Get you one of these things.
What were you showing me before I rudely cut you off with the intro?
These little ring light things.
I got a couple.
Oh, okay.
I have two. Aren't I cool?
I got some free lights from Best Buy using my rewards points. They're pretty neat. They have these little
cool.
Creates this sort of glow.
Yeah. Oh, I can hear that. Nice. Yeah, the whole lighting thing I didn't quite understand it until you throw your face up on a screen on like a high definition camera, and you're like, whoa, this looks a little frightening. Not that I look great or nothing. Just a little lighting never helps. I mean, never hurts. A little dasha.
It highlights the edges and the contrast and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I never knew that was a thing, and it's a really cheap investment. These things are what, like, I don't even remember how much they were. They weren't a lot. They're pretty cheap each. But hey,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, right. Hey, we got two lists. We got two viewers. I wonder if anyone's going to talk to us.
All right, we got to say something really interesting before they leave.
Hello, people watching. If you're a Russian bot out there, comment with your most racist and repetitive comments, because those are my favorite. But if you're a real human being, you should say something, and we'll talk to you.
So, speaking of Russia,
yeah,
we can dive into it. I sent you this link to this Tucker Carlson thing that I saw earlier randomly.
I listened to it while I was working. So
apparently, people are making the connection between the establishment right now, which happens to be left wing, the establishment left wing, and their desire to go to war, which is a kind of uncharacteristically left wing position.
Sure.
And they're tying that to some sort of subconscious desire to get back at Russia for hacking the 2016 election.
Yeah.
Is there evidence for this, or is it just a hilarious?
First I've heard of it, so I don't know. I mean, yeah, like if there are people out there, be like, we really need to go to war with Russia, just either to save face for us, so we don't look like complete morons, or to really just go full circle and bring it all back in and still have, I would say, Donald Trump on their mind. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that. I mean, it is perplexing that the left is all gung ho about giving money and aid to Ukraine. I would tie that more in my conspiracy theory about the Joe Biden connection over there, but that's just me. But, yeah, no, I've not heard that theory.
So I mean, today, right? I mean, that was clearly a case of projection, right? Like, I don't. Okay, it depends on how many layers you want to peel back here, right?
Oh, let's peel them all back.
Okay, so, it's been kind of common knowledge that the Bidens are connected to Ukraine for a while.
Yes.
Right. It's via Hunter and his business dealings. The whole thing where they talk about, here's 10% for the big guy and nobody's quite sure exactly who the big guy is. It's pretty obvious.
Right.
So in a classic case of DNC projection, the thing that they're doing is what they're accusing the other people of.
That is classic. Yep.
Right. So they tried to paint this whole Trump-Ukraine connection, right? Like he was going to withhold aid. Right. So correct me, right? So the reason he was impeached the first time was because he made some offhand comment, like people thought he was going to withhold aid to Ukraine unless they investigated some of the corruption that's over there,
Right.
specifically related to the Bidens.
Yes, and then that part of that corruption, and I could be misremembering this, was Joe Biden using his political influence as the vice president to get special favors either for his family or for other politically connected people in the Ukraine. As in, like, Joe Biden was put pressure to either fire somebody like someone was supposed to be reinstated. It wasn't like his son, but it was some other political. He said, "Well, you know what? I'm the vice president, so I'm going to make this happen if you don't do it." You know, that kind of thing.
Okay, so there's essentially, prior to the war, it felt like there were like two teams, right, over in Ukraine. There was the establishment oligarchs, right, that were kind of leftovers from the Cold War, who kind of had control of all the resources. And part of the reason for the revolution in like 2014, was it? Or was it after that when Zelensky came in? Was that he was very...
Yeah, that was like 12 or 14 or something like that.
Okay. So part of the reason for his popularity was he was sort of a populist figure, right? That came in there and was like, I'm going to root out. He was basically like Harvey Dent over there, right? He's going to root out the corruption. And so wouldn't that put him at odds? Like the Biden connection, are they connected to the new guard or the old guard over there? Or is it all misdirection?
I would think both. So both. I mean, he was deep inside of that stuff before so the United States was pretty hands-on and switching the governments over there. You know, like our CIA almost always is.
Yeah.
So, so now I guess define, well, maybe then new. I mean, I guess, I guess I couldn't say for sure, but I mean, he was involved on both aspects of it from the front end to the tail end. So where his allegiances lie now, I would assume with the newer government, because that's the ones there's our puppet regime that we put in there, for lack of a better term, to whatever degree they are. But we definitely help facilitate the overthrow. Was it like oh gosh, I'm going to say the name wrong. It's not like Bashenko or something like that. The previous guy. I've only done a very little bit of research on it. But I do want to imagine that during that whole time, people are like, who's the new president of Ukraine? And they're like, Zelensky. And like someone's like, Zelensky? The actor? The actor? Sorry. As you were talking, I was like, oh, I got to make my Doc Brown joke.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
But it definitely explains why, regardless of what happens, everybody involved hates Russia.
Yes.
Right.
That's a given. Yeah.
And we don't know exactly. Now, granted, there are plenty of good reasons to hate Russia. Right. Well, at least Putin and the establishment, like not like, the Ivanoviches who run the bagel shop, right? That's kind of crappy to hate them. But like, okay, but some of that hatred is fueled by a misguided, continued belief that they somehow interfered with U.S. democracy.
Right.
And like, we can't have interfering with democracy. That's our thing. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah. Another classic case of U.S. projection. Wait a minute. You don't meddle with elections. That's our job. No, that's very true. But yeah, I mean, that is the case, though. That's what people are freaking out about Russia. Obviously, is the Russian interference in our elections. Ooh, like the $400,000 that were spent on Facebook ads or something like that from bots. I don't really know what it was. It wasn't even that much, but. And also just the whole Russian disinformation, all the fun informations we have is just a big hard like this wouldn't have happened if Hillary Clinton won. Nobody would care. So they've had to ride this freaking train.
Well, that would be more. It's a continuation of the establishment, right? I mean, I think maybe part of where the narrative broke down, right, was because they're like, the Russian bots are spending this much money, right, and they presumed that meant that they wanted Trump in office. But Trump is
good point.
is or was arguably a more antagonistic figure to Russian interests.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So maybe it's just they were just trying to sow chaos, right? And in that sense, they succeeded, right? Because we had 2 elections in a row where the losing side could not accept defeat.
Yeah, no, I would agree on thinking about the way the Russians were like whatever the Russians perspective was. I was just saying that from the American perspective, this thing wouldn't have carried on forever if Hillary Clinton had won or had not lost to Donald Trump, because they had to have that reason for the loss. And then that's
right. They couldn't just take the L and be like, oh
no,
man, we got to do some soul searching.
they ramped that stuff up obviously hard for the next like this whole administration. So, and it was all
Right.
complete bullshit on his tie-in on it. So, then here we are.
And then he took the
So-
lesson from that. And he's like, oh, so if you lose, you get to just bitch about it for months.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then he goes and does that, and everybody's like, no, we can't have people not accepting the results of elections.
Yeah. What are you, an animal? This is America. This is a democracy, even though we're not a democracy, but whatever. That's okay. Yeah. Right. So the whataboutism is annoying, but it's easy to point out. So yeah, that is a weird thought but that's kind of what I was saying. That was like, so is it just a full circle? We've gone down the rabbit hole so hard. Now that, I mean, we didn't cause the war over there, but since there is a war, we got to jump on that bandwagon pretty hard. Now,
Yeah.
I think that's the case for sure. But like, and I'm sure there is tie-ins for, because like they're kind of our baby, man. Like we kind of made that government, as I would imagine as a bulwark against Russia to some degree. I mean, those tensions have always still been there on the political scale. I mean, NATO is still a thing.
I mean,
for a
isn't
reason, I guess.
the classic American MO, right? Is take a legitimate gripe and turn it into a reason to have war. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean,
Or reason to exert control. Yeah.
Saddam Hussein was a terrible person who
Yep.
did not deserve to be in charge of the country he was in charge of, right? The Taliban were objectively bad people, right? I mean, you could even the North Vietnamese weren't good. Neither was the North Korean. It's not. We've never gone to war against great people,
This is true.
right? So, I mean, we're not that stupid, right?
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to know more? Yeah. So, so basically, it's just going to turn into what the Iraq War was, where it's like, I mean, it's almost down to even some of the same buzzwords, right? WMDs. You know what I mean?
We're up to that now. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I caught the little quick clip of that guy on the video. Did you watch the whole thing that you sent me? All 20
Yeah.
whatever minutes was. So that one guy was just like, well, I got a resolution in for that authorizes the president to the authorization of force, without a declaration of war for Congress. I was like, what the fuck are we talking about again? I was like, are you seriously going to say that? Like, well, I hope he doesn't have to use it. But,
Isn't that the president's job to ask for a declaration of war? I mean,
Yeah,
that's kind of how the
right.
law works.
Right. Because so the asking for a declaration of war or asking for the authorization of military force, you still have to ask for it. No, I guess the authorization for military force is a pansy ass way of not declaring war and throwing it all on the president. Whereas where Congress is supposed to be the representative of the people, they're supposed to be the ones accountable, directly every 2 to 6 years or whatever.
I mean,
They're supposed to
basically, it applies
declare
to
war.
like anything too big that they can't just sweep it under the rug with the CIA, right? Because the CIA gets money
yeah,
every
for sure.
year from the Appropriations Committee, and they
Yeah,
do
they
all
can do
kinds of
whatever the hell
stuff. And then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it is so ass backwards because the Congress is supposed to declare war. So theoretically, the American people are supposed, like, if you believe in this democracy bullshit, the American people are supposed to declare war, and the president executes the will of the people. But we do it completely backwards. It's like, well, if the president wants to do it, he's in charge of the army. He's the God King, freaking commander, emperor.
so what is? Is there okay? Is it just a matter of budget and scope, right? Like if the president decides I don't like country B, so I'm going to go ask Congress for a declaration of what does that really gain the president that he can't already do? Just more stuff, like special
Well-
wartime provisions and.
Well, if Congress says no, he can't do it, right? Because Congress is, yeah. No.
But I
just
mean, he
saying
still
we're-
can, right? I mean, how many times have we sent drones into Yemen
Oh,
or something?
No. I'm sorry. I'm just talking like in the constitutional realm.
Oh, okay.
Like if things flowed the way they were supposed to, that's how it's supposed to go. How it actually works? Yeah, I guess not. Well, I don't know. We haven't declared war on anybody since Korea, right? I don't think we didn't. We didn't declare war in Vietnam.
This would be a good Jeopardy question. When was the last time America declared war?
I'm
Pull that
pretty
up,
sure it's
Jamie.
I'm pretty sure it's Korea, man. Last time U.S. declared war, besides the war on drugs.
And the war on poverty. And the war on COVID.
The war on disinformation.
The war on metal.
No way. It was World War II? That can't be right.
We didn't declare war in Korea? Interesting.
What are the 5 times the U.S. declared war? Great Britain, Mexico, Spain. Yeah, Germany, and then World War. Yeah, World War II. We didn't even declare war in Korea. Really?
So as long as there's been a Department of Defense, we've never declared war.
Doesn't
Because
seem
they created
way.
that after World War II, right?
Yeah. Wow. Bonkers. Bonkers. I didn't know that. I thought it was. I thought it was Vietnam for sure. But I mean,
No,
that's
that was
only
part.
one.
That was part of the whole reason it was such a quagmire because they called it a
Yeah, yeah.
police action, right? And it just kept
Right.
creep. Yeah.
Excuse me. Wow, that's nuts. But yeah, so I mean, whatever. So we haven't again. So my point is really moot in reality. But your question is probably better. So like, what is the functional difference? I mean, I don't know. We haven't declared war. So I mean, like the Iraq War was a full scale invasion, completely a 20-year freaking or the whole war in the Middle East. So Afghanistan and Iraq.
It's
So
a
that was
time.
the
It's a time to bring back those kishy little shirts that say like "endless war." You know what I mean?
yeah. No,
Or like,
no
what's
war.
that famous picture of Natalie Portman wearing the Star Wars thing that says "Stop Wars"?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Oh, it was a whole meme on the internet because like there was a picture of her wearing the "Stop Wars" in the little Star Wars font, right?
Yeah.
And then some people on the Reddit, were like, I bet this chick hasn't even seen Star Wars, and they're like, do you know who it is? So
Farm remembers.
yeah, it was one of those like classic like people didn't know who they were talking to on the internet anyway. So.
That's
But
pretty
like
funny.
that was clearly like a left wing bent. So like now like the right wing is going to come back with the "Stop Wars" slogans and like protesting with signs. I mean like, so I mean that's a whole interesting rabbit
That
hole
is
in
a
itself.
weird-
Like how did the left and the right switch on the whole war subject? Is it simply a matter of who's in charge? Like we oppose the war if the other guy came up with it, and then if
Yeah.
our guy came up with it, we all of a sudden like war. Is it that simple?
Well, yeah, it's funny because obviously George Bush started the war, the Middle East war there, the second one.
Yeah, but that
Barack
quickly
Obama-
fell out of favor even with conservatives, right?
Well, I think it took a while. Barack Obama kept it going for a very long time, and I think people just got sick and tired of it. I mean, when George, see, that's why I thought it was interesting to see what was going to happen when Trump came in because he was really pretty anti-war when he was campaigning. I was like, oh, this ain't going to work. Like, that's not going to work in the Republican Party, and it sure as hell did. And then he started hearing people be like, "Yeah, we probably should get out of Afghanistan, like and just get the rest of our shit out of Iraq." Well, what the hell are we doing over there? And he didn't get us out of Afghanistan, but
Was it because he was one of the first presidents that didn't have business interests, or well, Obama didn't really have? I mean, you couldn't say that about him, right? I mean,
no. But the common joke is just like, we're gonna do this as you campaign because Obama was very anti-war when he campaigned, and then he ratcheted it up and just did it in a different way with like drone strikes and
was that
killings.
because he was afraid of the blowback? I mean, right? Like, it's one thing to say we're going to stop war. That sounds like a great campaign slogan. Then when you get in there,
Oh, yeah, that's the joke, right?
nobody wants to be the one left holding, standing when the music stops, right? Because it's
No,
like we're gonna ratchet down what we're doing, and all of a sudden ISIS blows up a school or something, right?
Oh yeah, right. You said you're scared of the blowback. It's like the joke. They're like everyone's anti-war until they get in there and they show them the real Kennedy video, and they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, no, I better be no, never mind. I'll go whatever, Mr. CIA, we'll do that."
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That whole joke. So maybe it just didn't work on Donald Trump.
that's not a joke. That's a documentary.
What that every new inaugurated president sees the real video, then gets scared straight.
I would bet you $100. That's
I'd like to believe that. I really do. Well, it explains a lot. I mean, if
It really
if you're
does.
going in, excuse me, but whatever. So I don't know. All that fun stuff aside, I'm not sure. Yeah, but it was interesting that the Republicans flipped, or it might have just been timing. I guess they finally had
Maybe.
someone speak up, and then maybe they were. It kind of tapped in. Like it tapped into. Donald Trump was a dumb dude. He tapped into a lot of stuff that people were thinking on the right, but didn't want to say. You know what I mean? And I think that might have been a chunk of it.
There was a lot of grains of truth into some of the things that he said, but in
Correct.
his uniquely Trumpian way, figured out how to say them in the dumbest way possible,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
to appeal to the dumbest people possible. So it's like,
He said it in the reality show president style. That's what you got to do, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like we've talked about before, where like the left is going through some of the sort of adolescent growing pains that the right has already gone through. and battle. You know, like we talked about, like you know, the classic, like the moral panic about free speech, you know, or whatever it is, you know. And so the right realized like way long time ago that like having these ridiculously like pearl clutching moral panics doesn't really win in the long run because people ultimately want their freedom, right? So the right wing conservatism has gradually abandoned using those kinds of arguments to achieve their goals. Right. For the most part, right? They're not out there trying to like, we need extra ratings on television, and then like there was boobs at the Super Bowl. Like nobody cares about that stuff anymore. Right. So
It was just one boob. Let's be real. Come on.
that's true.
But yeah, you're right.
So so now the left is, they're like, ooh, we have the moral majority here. We're going to start, it's the right thing we're going to use all these moral arguments, and then those things they're not terribly successful. They're alienating a lot of people. So is it one of these things where the right has had plenty of experience with like being connected to the establishment and being like, war, we got national interest, let's go, and it's patriotic to do war, right? And then there's innocent people that are suffering because of this war, so don't we need to go to war and stop these bad people, right? And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work, right? Like the right experienced all that with Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, and then the ups and downs that went with that. But it's like the left has never had a war cause that was their baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
but I mean, really though, that's
because you can appeal to the human side of it, be like, the Ukraine people are suffering, right? And be like, well, of course we agree with, you know, we want to help them. And it's like, that's why we need to stop Russia. And it's like, oh, okay, you want to go to war with the people that you already didn't like because you think they installed the president you didn't like. Like,
yeah, I guess the direct parallel for sure then, like with the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war. So the American support for the war was pretty much unanimous right after 9/11.
Hillary Clinton voted for it.
The support for something, maybe not what happened or what it turned into. I think it was a bill of goods were sold. It was, we got to go.
Well, I don't even necessarily disagree with that. I mean, we can't. I mean, there's a reason we have the "don't negotiate with terrorists" clause, right? Because we can't have whoever, you know, Tom, Dick, and Harry blowing up stuff without repercussions.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if it didn't start off as the right wing baby. It, I think, became the right wing baby when we started messing
regime
with Iraq.
change.
Yeah, once we got into
nation
Iraq,
building.
Right. Yeah.
I remember very vividly being in
it morphed into that.
Being in a class in college in like 04, 05. And I was like one of two conservative dudes in the class. I wasn't very outspoken. It was a class about like the modern Middle East or the modern like Muslim countries and all this, you know, Algeria and all this kind of stuff that I didn't pay as much attention as I should have. But I remember there was the one conservative guy who would always get into these arguments with everybody else in the class. He was like, "Things are getting done in Iraq, man. I'm just telling you. You know, we're stalling a nation." It was like all these classic like stuff that like Stephen Colbert would say when he was playing his character. And it became sort of a neocon talking point,
right?
You know, because they couldn't just admit, "Oh, wait." You know, it's hard to when you're part of a movement, and then that movement goes south. You're like, "Okay, wait a minute. I don't want to admit that I'm involved in a moral quandary."
Yeah. Now there definitely was like already outlined plans for like us to go into Iran and us for go into Syria. And there's also backlogs up to that if Russia got involved. Like, so like there was like a big overarching, we're going to destroy, kill a lot of people in this region and like really put our fingerprint on there and really control it. So like that was ready to roll, which was definitely a right-wing thing because it was promoted by those guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess to your question,
and I guess well, go ahead.
Yeah,
finish.
I mean, the right has already gone through all that, maybe, but like again, though, but that was at least the pretense of that was America was directly affected. You know, as in like we're indirectly affected in Ukraine if you buy into the lie that Russia caused our inflation that's been happening for 2 years. But
right.
You know, so yeah, but either way, it's stupid. But it is crazy though, because like we are just basically we have blank checks just going over to Ukraine now, like 20 billion here, 35 billion there, you know, whatever they need. Yeah. But then that's just cash. That's stuff that's like cash, man. That's not even like that's just aid. It's like, and then we give them weapons or we sell them weapons. Yeah, so yeah, we're already direct. I mean, we're already.
There was a new thing.
There
was a video of this lady talking about like how they need to earmark more money for like Basically, it's like any problem in the world, they want to blame it on Russia, right? So, you know, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's like Russia's a huge exporter of fertilizer, like phosphate and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it's turning into this huge like global food crisis in like Europe and Africa and stuff. So it's like, whoa, we need to earmark more money for this to make up for the fact that, you know, yeah.
Yeah, we're short. There's a shortage coming. Like earmark more stuff for what? So the United States to what? Up more? What are we gonna do?
Just send more money and inflate the currency more.
Oh, that'll work. That always helps.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're not sending our brightest.
Okay, so wait a minute. So what's the whole scenario around the whole neo-Nazi connection to Ukraine?
There's like a battalion of Nazis or something in Ukraine. And how I don't know. Are they like?
Because I've seen some conservative people bring up this point, and they're like,
I mean,
why are you guys blindly supporting Ukraine? And I was like, wait a minute, that seems a little strange.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, but it is kind of a funny talking point that there's like a subset of the Ukrainian army that is super white nationalist and like that was it the Azovs or Azovs or something.
I don't know.
They do have some Nazi overtones with their rhetoric and their like gear and like their history and their history. So there's some kind of tie back to World War II with some of them and or their fight against Russia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What exactly it is and how officially sanctioned or unsanctioned it is. Whatever, man. But think about it, like. Even since like Ukraine's like a democracy, like, and I don't think it really is, and it's not like they run like a.
They're more of a democracy than Russia.
Sure, okay, yeah, I'll give you that, but also there's a lot of corruption going on in there, and then the military and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of free reign, control of factions and groups that have to be kind of melded and played around like a chess piece. You know, like any of those old world or European countries that have some old corruption issues. I think there's still a lot of that there. I think that group's probably one of their own, a little bit of autonomy, and they have some unsavory ideas. But there is that group. But like Ukrainian is not like a Nazi freaking run military government or anything. I think it's just a sticking point and a funny meme to say, like, oh yeah, well, okay, you're on the left wing in the United States and you support Nazis fighting Russians. Good for you. Yeah, you're an anti-fascist. That whole joke.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I get out of it.
I've seen left and right wing people bring up. They're like, oh, you're supporting Ukraine, but what about the Nazis there?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I mean, like no country's perfect. You know what I mean?
No.
Like that.
I'm sure there are plenty of racists in the Ukrainian army.
Yeah.
Just because it's a subset of human beings. That's all I mean. But again, the point in Ukraine is there's, like I said, there's a lot of disparate groups that have been combined into a country, kind of forced into a country. I mean, like Zelensky, like they said, they've shut down his freaking political opponents for this war. I mean, like it's not like they've closed freaking cable networks and stuff like that and newspapers. So, I mean, that's what a lot of countries do during wartime. But, I mean, just to pretend that it's this clear Western, Enlightenment freaking, kind of democracy, like just parallels to the United States or to Great Britain or something like that it's not the same thing. So, I don't know. I think it's an unfair clickbaity argument, but also, we shouldn't be supporting them anyway. I mean, it is a good point, I guess. Like, well, why are you supporting assholes? Like, let them fight their war. That's up to them. You get into bed with bad people, and you end up, it's not good.
Why is it that people think that conservatives are defending Russia? Like,
that's just plainly political.
Okay, well, because I've heard like Tucker Carlson defends Putin's talking points. Well, it's like he was explaining, but like that doesn't mean it's not a defense. But like,
right. It's the same thing where if you were against nation building in Iraq, you were for the terrorist. Why do you support the Taliban? Like, okay, no, I just don't want the United States going to fight a war and like knocking over, regimes and trying to prop up puppet governments and trying to control everything.
Yeah.
So if you go, it's not really in our national interest to go to war with Russia or to support the Ukraine up to the point of our declaring war. I mean, because we don't declare war, but we're basically at war with Russia. And I'll say this again and again and again, with the amount of support and we give strategic ideas and arms to these guys. Like, we help them out with what they're doing. So if you're just
okay with that.
You okay with doing that?
I'm okay with helping Ukraine behind the scenes.
No, I'm not. I don't think so. I don't think we should do any of it. But then that means I'm supporting Russia if I don't want to do that.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean,
I know you wouldn't. What I'm saying is that's a cheap political argument. That's all it is.
Well, right. I mean, it would be, not to get off on that tangent. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I mean, that's it. So it's just like, if you're against the U.S. involvement, then that means you're pro the opposite side that you're trying to.
I'm sure people are probably making that point, right? They're being like, these conservatives are trying to protect Russia because they installed Trump, right?
Oh yeah, and then you go down that. Then you can score those other dumb points. But like,
I mean, I don't think a lot of people are saying that, but I mean, I'm sure there's somebody who thinks that.
Yeah, no, there are. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the whole. That is the whole argument, because there's no one on freaking Putin's side that I can see or I've seen anywhere. In fact, even like you watch that Tucker Carlson video, it's just like, well, going to Ukraine or supporting Ukraine's bad. It's like, I know standing up for Ukraine, whatever, if that's what you would do, because the invasion of Ukraine was obviously immoral and something Russia should never have done, and Putin's a terrible human. Like, he says that like over and over and over again. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just a bullshit.
It thing. Basically does come down to maybe not the right, because I mean the right is very large, right? Just like the left is very large and full of a lot of different people. But like, it almost feels like the right kind of learned a little bit about getting involved in a quagmire of a war, right? Where there's a moral cause at the center of it. And it's like, we did that, and we lost elections over it, and we had Thanksgiving arguments over it. And, our sons and cousins coming home in body bags over it. It's like, we've been there, done that. And so it's like, yeah, okay, we're a little bit hesitant next time. Because now we're like, Iraq war was 20 years ago when it started.
Yep.
Right? So we're like one generation removed from it. So it almost feels like the right is trying to remove the warmonger image from its, kind of like the left abandoned all kind like free speech and all kinds of stuff, true. From back in the day, and like, freedom of diversity and all this kind of stuff like that. Those used to be left-wing talking points, and now they've kind of, we don't care about that anymore. So the right, it used to be like the party of like war and patriotism and national security and, all that kind of stuff, which could have a good spin or a bad spin depending on how you looked at it. But like, I feel like the right maybe learned a lesson there and was like, that's not a good hill to die on, metaphorically or literally.
I mean, I would think a lot of people have. I mean, because you see some general or some genuine reactions to when like a neocon comes up with an article or an op-ed and says something, and people are just like, this guy's a dickhead. He hasn't learned anything. He's a warmonger. And you hear like people on the right saying that. You're like, wow, okay, that is impressive. That is now kind of in the lexicon. Now, I do remember when Trump was up and people were just like, holy shit, there are Republicans that are vehemently anti-war now. Like, what is that? So like, that is a thing. Like,
they were always there. They just were they kept it to themselves.
Well, then maybe just the power shifted within the party a little bit. The scales tipped after Trump, and they're still riding that wave. What I mean, and I think those people are genuine in how they feel.
So what you're saying is Trump made being anti-war cool to the Republicans.
I guess so, or at least palatable. Cool, maybe not palatable.
So if there's one positive thing that Trump brought to that tent,
Oh yeah, I would grant that all day. Yeah. That is the best thing Trump did was.
I mean, that may have already been happening, right? With the unpopularity of all that, But he capitalized on it, and he made it okay to say in a mainstream Republican establishment, I don't like wars. I don't like sending our kids over to, horrible places to get blown up. Yeah.
Ron Paul got a little ways with that, but not very far, because they shut him out of that. They cut him out of that loop pretty damn quick, because he was one out of like 15 Republicans saying
so. Ron Paul is like the Bernie Sanders of the Republican Party.
Yes, absolutely. No, that is legitimately true. And I know a lot of guys that were like, or a lot of like podcasters I listen to, like, I came up in the Ron Paul days of being a libertarian. They're like, I really have respect for the whole Bernie Sanders thing. I hate everything he says, and it sucks what they did to Bernie Sanders. That's what they did to Ron Paul. They get all mad. I was like,
What would happen if the
well,
two of them ran together? Everybody's head would explode.
oh, that would be so much fun. But I don't think America needs another bunch of 80-year-olds running for president. We really need to get away. We need to get away from that. Whew, holy shit, we need to get away from that. These old timers, these boomers, man, not good for the country. Very bad things. Very bad things.
Okay, so
that's kind of what's going on. I mean, that's my assessment of it. I'm not an expert in Ukraine by any stretch of the imagination. But
there's another theory that I heard somebody say, which is, well, nobody has. I guess it's too early to tell. The leak about the Roe v. Wade overturning thing. People are acting like, oh, that was a planned thing to distract from the impending war.
I've heard that as well.
I don't know if that's true because life is just chaotic enough that those kind of things could be independent of each other.
Yeah, well, no. So you heard the war. I heard another. It was hiding something else.
Well, I mean, pick your scandal, right? I mean, the Biden administration's failed at everything. So any news that comes out about something the conservatives are doing is like, oh, that distracts from how we're screwing everything up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what you heard one particular conspiracy theory. I heard a different one. So, damn it, what was it? I don't think it had anything to do with the, or maybe it did have something to do with the war. Then, what's the breaking news on the war that they are theoretically hiding?
Well, they're just ramping it up, right? I mean, nothing necessarily new today.
Oh, I got
but the idea, well, I mean, last week Biden said we're going to respond in kind, and they had walked that back. Right, and there's doing all this. They're setting all the chess pieces up. They're getting authorization for force and all that stuff.
Damn it! I wish I had wrote that down. What it was. Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. I mean,
I don't either.
That's a lot of coincidence. I think the simplest explanation is somebody wanted to get that out to help sway public opinion, which makes total sense.
On the left or the right?
Probably on the left.
Yeah, because that would be the inevitable backlash. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Because the momentum is already at the right.
Yeah. The public outcry is going to be more against the decision to overturn, for sure, on the media side. So if you leak it to the media is going to run with it, and it's going to be this guy. It's going to be exactly what we've seen for the last 24 hours, like people losing their freaking minds. So
it's really interesting. It's similar to the Elon Musk free speech scenario in the sense that, like, I really don't think people are going to look back in 20 years and be like, yeah, that was a good look when that time that I was ranting and raving about, like, being, how dare this person come in and try to install free speech? It's like, why don't you think about what you're saying here? Right. So I don't think the country's ever going to come to a consensus about, like, the morality of abortion, right? But, like, the idea that in such a huge country, right? Like, it's one thing back, in the 1770s when the country was like 1 bazillionth the size it is now.
Crammed on the East Coast, dispersed 18 miles between you and your neighbors.
Right. I often wonder, the framers of the Constitution, as smart as they were, because, I mean, the Constitution is a work of art in terms of just the smartness that it took to make that thing, flaws and all. Like, I wonder if they were to look at, like, all right, okay, you guys are smart. Take a look at America circa 2022. You got any ideas? Like, how would you handle this? Knowing what you know about human nature and government and stuff.
Yeah, starting fresh. Let's start fresh at 2022. How would you set this up?
Yeah, I wonder. And it's like, I feel like the people who are anti the idea of, like, well, okay, we got 50 states and they're all pretty big, even the small ones, right? It's like, a contentious issue like that, why don't we leave it up to the individual states so that the federal government doesn't get too big of a head about it? Right. And having the highest court in the land come up with a decision that says, like, willing to have the balls to be like, we like our job and we take our job seriously, but we don't want to the Constitution doesn't say this and it doesn't say this. It makes no mention of this. Setting aside our personal opinions, why don't we leave it up to the individual democratically elected states?
Right.
Like, opposing that opinion is not going to look good in hindsight.
Oh, yeah. I would.
You know what I mean? It's kind of a hard to defend. You have to be a real ideologue to. I mean, it just so happens that this is, sort of a win for a conservative cause, but like it could just as easily have been.
It could be any. It could be any.
It could be gay marriage. It could be weed legalization. It could be anti-death penalty. Any of these sort of causes that, like, that I kind of am sort of more liberal on, right? Because I'm like, people have the ultimate right is a person's personal choices.
You heard it here. Dan is pro death penalty for gay marriage. I get it. That's fair.
Yeah, sure. Combine those two. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, come on, put them all together. No.
So what you're saying is okay.
Get married, believe it or not, straight to death.
Straight to jail.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt a stupid joke. So
yeah, no, that's right.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, gosh, I would like to think that's the case, but I think most people don't have. I mean, that live and let live attitude is gone, which is the whole.
Most people don't have that.
No, most people don't have that. Too. So I just quickly looked at it. The population of the United States at the founding of the country, 2.5 million people.
Oh man, I was going to estimate like 5 or 10. So
I would have estimated 5. I was going to be like the whole founding of the
country. Does that count? Is that just white people or slaves too, or how does that work?
Oh, I don't. We can't count slaves, Dan. Come on.
2/3.
Yeah, come on. 2/3. Yeah, no, I didn't know. They did. I don't know. But all right, so. What is there estimated like 1 million slaves? Maybe I think that's an overestimate. I don't think that's correct either. Regardless, I was gonna say like 10 or 12. I was prepared to be like the founding of the country had about as much people as North Carolina has now, and it's only a tenth of that. So isn't that crazy? Like, there's no way that's
how many people live in Charlotte?
Yeah, it's got to be close to at least 1 million people, right? Well, yeah, more than that. And the Charlotte, and like the whole county, like Mecklenburg County. And
Charlotte's
like
big.
Yeah. So yeah, so that whole idea of it was almost a necessity to leave it up to local stuff because it was this. I mean, this is a good argument being like, well, why? The way it was set up was the local governments handled most of their stuff. I mean, for technological reasons, that makes a whole lot of sense. It's easier to set up stuff locally, and when you have no technology, you don't have phones, you don't have internet, you don't have automobiles, like. Traveling to the county capital, let alone the freaking the United States capital, would take months and months and months. You know what I mean? So
right. So you had to have local magistrates, sheriffs, stuff like that.
Ooh, look at this. We got a comment. I know this fine gentleman right here.
Wes Reinhardt.
Yep.
That's an old school white person Republican name.
He's an old school man. That's what can I say? Daniel Boone thought it was getting too crowded when he could see his neighbor's chimney smoke in the distance. Well, yeah, okay. That's a take, and I'm not opposed to it. Just So, but the point being, like, if you were to take, you just transpose, exactly. If we were to start over today. And say, let's form this government. There's no way people would sign on half the shit that the founding fathers wanted to do, even just structurally wise, just allowing people to control their stuff. Because it's like, this is, like you said, the perfect example. This whole thing with the overturning Roe v. Wade doesn't make abortion illegal. It only makes it illegal where states want it to be illegal. There's going to be thousands of abortions every year. Still, you can go anywhere in the country within like a few hours and have an abortion if you want to. So.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's just is what it is.
And it preserves the integrity of the court. I think that's like
that is
setting aside the issue itself. Like whatever you think about it. Like, but the fact that the court was willing to, I mean, one of the features of American government since the beginning, one of the nice things, and granted there were problems, was that it built into the structure of it a self-correcting mechanism. Right? Like if you build a robot and the robot, like once its arm breaks, it's like, okay, I just have one arm now. But if the smart, eventually, like sustainably, you would want to build a robot that can fix itself. That can, like WALL-E, that where WALL-E goes and he finds like an eye socket from one of the other WALL-Es. Like that's a smart design, right? So American government was designed to fix itself and to self-correct and to update itself. So I think it's encouraging, setting aside the particular issue, right? The idea that the Supreme Court kind of went against its own like tyrannical authority. Yeah. Because conservatives have been saying, well, some conservatives have been saying for years, they're like, Roe v. Wade is a crap decision. And people just say like, oh, well, that's just because you're you're a Bible thumper and you don't like abortion. And in many cases that was true, right? That was a coincidence that was also, but a lot of people who were like, who understood how the law worked were like, no, Roe v. Wade was a poorly written decision because it tried to wrap in the right to federal right to an abortion with right to privacy,
Yeah.
which is a real stretch,
There's a stretch.
right? And so it's one of these things where like, all right, if you wanted to enshrine that into American government, we need to pass an act, right? We had the Civil Rights
Yeah.
Act, we got this, you know, all these other things that are, so like that would be the way to do it. You don't sneak it in sideways through the courts. So it's actually kind of encouraging that the courts themselves are now being like, yeah, that was an overstep that was a breach of the mandate of what the court is supposed to be doing. So I like that part of it.
Right.
You know, like when was the last time a branch of government reigned in its own power?
Yeah. Right. Correct. Yeah. I mean,
So
really
I mean,
the
it's
Supreme-
nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
and really, the Supreme Court is the only branch that has ever done that. To be honest with you. So
yeah.
out of the branches of government, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not gonna say anything good about them. I still hate them. But they're the least crap of everything. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
so who started the whole trend of like activists on the court?
Oh, I think that was pretty early on, man. What was the guy's name? I don't remember. I guess
Because
that's probably
basically
that's
now
probably
as
up into interpretation though, and what you
Right.
assign as activist court.
Well, I mean, as it stands in 2021, 2022, it's like, all right, one for us, one for them. You know, it's a constant, you know, like playing
Right.
Connect Four or Tic Tac Toe. You know, where it's like you just got to get that one little edge, 5-4, 4-5, 5. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know. Like, I guess I should know this too. What was the first?
I think it's a very subjective statement. Like, who was the
It
first
really
act-
is. Like, I'd imagine it was a lot of stuff. I don't know. I'm not even gonna.
But
guess,
it's not
man,
just
because
a left-right thing. I mean, because you had like the Ruth Bader Ginsburgs of the world, right?
Yeah.
Who?
Well, she said it was bad law.
Yeah, that's true.
Of course, that doesn't mean she was going to overturn it either. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it really comes down to, I mean, and this is not a settled debate, but it's like the idea of, is the American Constitution set in stone, or is part of like I was just saying, part of the genius of the American Constitution is that it builds in a self-corrective mechanism to be updated, like natural selection. It's like a being that can evolve on its own in its environment, right?
Yeah.
So some people take that. Some people hate that idea. They're like, no, what we wrote in 1780 is what we got, right? And other people are like, no, it's got to change, man. We got to, and then they take that too far. So, I mean, I don't know if there's really a right answer. I mean, that's the endless debate. You know, some people who are like, no, actually, we can redefine the Civil Rights Act to include transgenderism, you know, and stuff like that. And then other people are like, no, if they didn't say it in 1780, it shouldn't exist. And I think both of those opinions are stupid.
Right. Yeah. If you're saying if it didn't say it in 17, I mean, now I think I'm more open.
Well,
to
the classic sort of the typical conservative position, which is like constitutional originalism.
Yeah, like if you should have to take the writings of the people who actually wrote the law into account, right? I mean, that makes sense. I mean, because otherwise you don't know what the law is supposed to mean. I'm like, so I don't know. That makes total sense too. But that's not like it's written down, so therefore it can't be changed. It's written down. You understand the reasons why you want to have that.
Well, the
rule
problem
in there,
comes
so.
when people. Well, it's not like they didn't think of that too. Like they did think of like if you want to change something, you pass a law, right? Elect representatives that will pass the law that you want, right? And if it's a law that requires big enough change, then that needs to be an amendment to the Constitution, and that requires a certain amount with 2/3 majority, right? So it's not that it's impossible to change the world, to change the landscape.
Correct.
It's just that the people who want to change the landscape don't want to wait for that. So they're like, all right, well, how about this?
Well, see, that's the
How
frustrating
about we get a couple of Supreme Court nominees, and they can just change the interpretation of the laws we already have, and then that's basically the same thing as writing new laws.
Right. At least the Congresses of yesteryear had the balls to write blatantly unconstitutional laws and make the court strike it down. So now it's just like the courts.
Oh, that's still alive and well. I mean, look at the whole vaccine mandate and all that.
Oh yeah, but like right. No, but I mean like okay. So let me rephrase that. I meant like big, huge laws, or like that's what I meant. I guess you're right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. But like half the time, it's like, well, no, the vaccine mandate, that wasn't a law. That was just that was an executive branch.
They just
decision.
do stuff.
Yeah, Congress didn't do shit with that. That wasn't like Congress has now passed a law no, that was the executive branch just doing what it wants, which is obviously unconstitutional.
Well, Congress passed Obamacare, and then that got challenged in the Supreme Court.
Yes, no, so fair enough. So see, that was a good one, but that's pretty rare. So like, and like the no, yep, that's it. Obamacare's one. That was so like it's because
the whole was that ever challenged?
Well, no. Well, I'm sure it has been.
Probably should have been.
So now we're talking about like two big ones. So over like the past 20 years, because like gay marriage was just a Supreme Court decision, and I don't even. So I've seen people being like, and actually in the leaked draft, decision, it says it references Obergefell a few times. They're just like, we are definitely not saying that now we can just go and overturn Obergefell for other things that are dubiously found in the Constitution, as to like go out of their way, not to be like, all right, don't freak out here. But so I've seen a lot of people go, well, now we've done this, you can use the same reasoning for that. So that is an argument. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm just because this has all been within the last 24 hours. I've been reading up on some stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that one went down and what was the legal precedent for that. I don't remember because it was such a while back.
Yeah, I wasn't following current events when that happened.
I just don't remember. But it was definitely a Supreme Court decision based in some kind of constitutional interpretation. I mean, and there is no right to gay marriage in the Constitution. Let's be real. But I mean, is
there a right to marriage?
I don't know. On a federal level, I don't know.
See, like on a pragmatic level, like we talked about before, like I don't really oppose it, but like I would be curious to see that, like, how have we mangled an existing concept? Like, was this sort of a common law assumption, like culturally,
Well, there's definitely no. I will say this with certainty: there is no federal purview for the federal government to be involved in marriage. Period. There's nothing in this Constitution that gives the federal government the right to be involved in any marriage in any way or shape or form. However, that don't let a good argument get in the way of whatever you want to do. But so I don't remember what constitutional argument they used to get that passed on a federal level. I don't remember.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to learn about that.
Yeah. But
because I like the idea, as dorky and as boring and as like tedious as it feels like, you know what I mean? Like, these kind of discussions feel like the worst part of the Star Wars prequels, where it's like, I propose an amendment. It's like, oh, geez, this is boring. Like, can we get to the fighting? But it's like, no, in real life, when you have a country of 350 million people, we do need to be very specific about the exact limits of how laws work. So, it's one thing if, like, okay, I think it's, as a person, I'm like, I don't care one way or the other about marriage. I'm like, I don't like the government being involved in it one way or the other. So it's like the outcome of that, I agree with, but it's also important to me that procedures were followed, because if we don't have procedures, then it's just like whoever you can get on the court, all of a sudden now they're just doing your agenda, So, I mean, it's part of the whole reason Trump got elected, right? And part of the polarization was that the conservatives were like, we have to get people on the court because Ginsburg's going to die. And we got, you know what I mean? Like, that was part of the whole reason. So many people who were like, so many people held their nose and they're like, voting for Trump because of that reason. If we could stop polarizing and politicizing the court and have just like very competent people who understood how the law worked, then we wouldn't have to choose between these turd sandwich candidates.
Yeah, I would agree. Sorry. Also, I was looking this up, and I don't have a reason here. But so the 14th Amendment there's the right to privacy.
Right to privacy.
Obergefell was also used for Obergefell. So how that ties in, how they directly tied that in, I don't know. So now, so that was the whole point of Alito being like, okay, so yes, we're using the 14th Amendment. We're gonna strike that reasoning down for Roe, but don't get your panties in a twist. We're not doing that for gay marriage. So I don't know. Interesting. I'm not real sure. But
Huh.
the 14th Amendment has nothing to do with abortion and it has nothing to do with marriage. So I mean, I can see why people would be upset or worried about that or want to use that. But then again, the federal government does 99% of the things it does has nothing to do with constitutional authority at all. So that's
Yeah.
not that's neither here nor there.
Here we go. The polarization of candidates and the elevation that we give the president today is because we really want something more like a king.
I mean, it's
Not
not wrong.
wrong.
Not
Yeah.
wrong. People want to be led. People don't want to lead. They don't want to take control of their own stuff. They want to just point to someone else and say, "Tell me what to do, Daddy."
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I think people do like the idea of offloading responsibility onto their elected representatives and going, "Hey, man, this is it's above my pay grade, and these problems are too big." But so I don't know.
I mean, that explains
that
a lot
happens-
about people.
Well, and that happens in everyday life too. I mean, like, how many people start a business, own a business? How many people want to be a CEO of a company? You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to think about. Or how many people want to, just be their local school, like go run for a school board or something. Holy crap! Can you think of all the headaches that involves? Like, just those small decisions or small scale decisions. They can be big decisions, but decisions that affect a small amount of people, and people don't want any of that. So people offload that kind of stuff all the time. So
Yeah. I mean,
it is human nature.
I do it, not necessarily in the sense of that, but like I've had times in my life where I like latched on to certain thought leaders as like sort of guideposts of like philosophy, but like never
Placebook.
totally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are smart people. Like I might be like I go through a period where I'll read Jordan Peterson's book, or I'll listen to this other philosopher person and be like, okay, well there's some good points in here, and there's some of that, and like I mean I think it's a natural human.
Yeah, I would do that too.
Behavior.
Like I said, it's like shorthand. You're like, okay, so I've been convinced, like you say, like Jordan Peterson. It's like I've enjoyed his work. I understand what he's coming from. I think he's got an interesting point of view and a smart point of view.
But I
He's
don't agree with
probably
everything
right.
he says.
It's like, but you would in the short term, if he says something, you go, okay, well, let me. You don't know something or you don't have an opinion. You're just like, all right, I'll latch onto that for a second and give it some thought. You know what I mean? In a positive way.
Yeah, well,
It wouldn't be like, well, Jordan Peterson said, so that's probably stupid and wrong. You're like, okay, Jordan Peterson said it, so therefore,
He's probably thought through it.
yes, at least I trust him enough in one other area to give this thought credence. If you're a thinking person, kind of thing.
But he would be the first person to say, no,
Don't
Yeah,
want to
don't do
blindly
that.
accept someone else's oligarchical, opinions about. That's how. I mean, if you read Pinocchio, what you really find is
So, yeah, the only people worth really listening to are the ones who are like, look, don't listen to me for everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. No, and I agree, and it's not necessarily a bad instinct, but the way people do see the government's role in their lives is pretty unhealthy, or the way they want the off source.
Yeah.
Outsource,
I mean, talk about mission creep, like we talk about
Yeah.
with like these wars where we start out with one thing, like, all right, we're going to go in there and we're going to blow up the bad guys. I'm like, all right, I don't entirely disagree with that because those guys are shit. Right. But then they get in there and they're like, while we're here, we can also build some infrastructure. How about some water ducts and maybe some roads? And how about we install a justice system? Okay. Oh, financial system. Okay. Well, okay. We got that too. All right. You guys, beep, beep.
we're just gonna
beep.
happen, to
And then we're just,
facilitate a
now all of a
couple
sudden we're
elections
rebuilding
while
the whole
we're
thing
here.
and now they're in charge of everything. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So the same thing happens here. Like we like the idea we can offload stuff to the government. Like, all right, you guys want to build a road? I don't know how to build a road. Okay, build a road, right? You want to put, okay, you got those nice, I don't know how to put out a fire. You can fire trucks, the things that everybody agrees upon that we're fine with the government doing. Like I'm okay with the way that, okay, not people except for you, right? But like, despite the particulates in my shower, I'm okay with like, all right, Durham the water, they provide the water and it comes into my house and I pay $30 a month. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. Okay, I get it. So we're used to like, all right, here's a good thing. Here's something I need. And this government provides it. Okay. And then it's like, well, here's something else I need. Why doesn't the government provide that? And then you take it too far, and it's like,
Yeah.
I need direction and purpose in my life. I need, I need to deal with the existentialism of the fact that the world and life is chaos, and that bad luck happens, and there's inequality amongst people because of a million reasons. The government's like, well, you trusted me with your water and your fire protection and your roads. How about you trust me to handle those problems too? And now all of a sudden, now you just got the government handling all problems. So that's where we're at.
Well, yeah, like you said, and it is mission creep too, because like if you give people a job and you give people a salary, they're gonna want to keep that thing, and they're gonna find new ways to grow their job, grow their salary, grow their position, give new people, get new involvement. You know what I mean? It's human. Like, so if you give the whatever, if the water company could, if it was privatized, they would handle all your utilities. They would do your sewer. They would do water. They would do electricity if they could. As a like a corporation would do that too. Like, so I don't know, man. It is what it is. But it's still something people should be cognizant of. Cognitive. I'm not saying that word right. Cognizant.
Well,
I felt like,
speaking of corporation competition, we can end on this. So I had this lady call me. I wasn't really a lady. She sounded like she was my age or younger. And so
it's like, ma'am.
It's like some chick called me from like, hey, I was calling from Spectrum. I'm like, yeah, I don't have Spectrum. So it's like, well, we're just offering deals. I'm like, what are you offering? I mean, I used to have Spectrum internet, and I switched to AT&T because it was $20 cheaper and twice as fast. So it's like, okay, well, just wanted to let you know that our lines are fully coax, and we're offering competitive upload speed. There were like these pauses in her little spiel that she was reading.
I was like reading her card. Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to have some fun with this one, because I was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I was like, really? So they're fully coax now? Like, what were they before? Me knowing that like cable internet and it's been coax for 30 years. I mean, what else? How else? Well, coax, it's, where they got the hard plastic on the outside. It doesn't bend as well. I was like, so what were they using before? I mean, it comes into that.
It's got a snake around things, right?
Honestly, I don't really know. I just know that it's all coax now. I'm like, all right, fair enough. I'll let you off the hook. That was so I was like, so what are the upload speeds? She's like, and there was literally like a 5-second pause. She was like, 15, 30, 40, and it was like that. I was like, for which tier? How much is that? She's like, okay, so what's your address? I need to look it up. And I was like, I was like, you called me. Like, don't you have my address? I was an ex-customer of yours. She's, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I do have your address. It's 150. Okay, all right. So, she was like, and then it took her like 5 minutes. She's like, yeah, it's gonna be $89.95. I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm paying $30 less than that for twice that speed. So I don't know what you want. She's like, yeah, that doesn't really sound like a smart choice for you. So thanks for listening to your time. I was like, oh God. I just felt so bad for her, because they clearly give her like no preparation materials at all. They just make them call up. Yeah.
I had my my bank for my business called me the other day. They're like, hey, so we just want to let you know, someone's going to be contacting you about your credit card processing. I was like, oh no, what's wrong with my credit card processing? I was like,
that sounds ominous.
Yeah, they're like, well, they're just going to call you, and they just want to give you a heads up on what they can provide and all this kind of stuff. I was like, is there a problem with my credit card processing? She's like, well, no. She's like, but we're switching on our end, the service provider we use, so we just need to let everybody else know. I was like, is my credit card stuff still processing? It's like, it's going to my bank account, right? She's like, oh yeah. I was like, okay, so no problem there. She's like, no. I was like, so why are you calling me then? She's like, well, we just want to let you know we're switching. I was like, okay, but I don't have to do anything. She's like, well, no, but we still want to talk to you about it. I was like, is this a sales call? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Send me an email. I'm like, no. I was like, it was like the person that works at my bank. I was like, what do you do? What? I was like, all right, yeah.
Let me ask
Send
you
me
a
some
question.
information.
Do you have in front of you on your desk a list of people to call and a script? Actually, yes. I'm like, Fair enough. We've all been there. We've all sat at a desk with a list of people and a script. No judgment, but bye.
No, I can go to my bank and talk to this person that called me. Like I know her on her first name basis. Like I know who this person was. That's why it freaked me out. I was like, what's wrong with my credit? What's wrong with my checking account? I was like, I need to know these things. I was like, oh, this is a sales call. I was like, whatever. You had me freaking worried. I was like, yeah, shoot me some info. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Just email me next time.
Fear is a strong motivator. It's like, are you watching what they're watching? Like you need a VPN. Like Russian hackers are viewing your passwords.
They really are.
Have you logged onto Wi-Fi at a Starbucks? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, your bank account's gone, dude. There's 7 of you running around. Have you done your credit card check?
I have looked up how to hack into stuff over the Wi-Fi on public Wi-Fi. It's very hard. Like most people are. Like I'm not smart enough to do that stuff, and I feel like a lot of the average person I see in a Starbucks is not as smart as me. So, like, you would have to be literally in a Starbucks with like Tony Stark or something to really do that. I mean, not saying it doesn't happen because it can't.
Presumably, the Starbucks internet has a little bit of security built into it. Like,
yeah, it's usually like node isolated.
Yeah. I don't even know what that means.
Like on your normal network, like a phone can see other stuff on the same network, like a printer.
Right. Yep.
Right. But what you usually do when you set up like a guest wireless is that you have that like each device can only go out to the internet, not sideways to other stuff on the network.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't like peer to peer anything in there.
Yeah, like you wouldn't be like
on that network.
If you were on a Starbucks Wi-Fi or like, a hotel Wi-Fi or anything that's like competently direct, you go and like you do like a network scan with any, you can do that with any number of free apps. You would like, if I go on like a private Wi-Fi or like somebody's office, you could see like Steve's iPhone, a bunch of MacBooks, some printers, security cameras, maybe some TVs. Like that's normal stuff. You wouldn't be able to do that on a public Wi-Fi if the person set it up properly.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Regardless, I still use online. I'm good with my phone. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, I don't have LifeLock or whatever VPN is sold on every podcast I listen to that I can't remember their name because I'm not interested.
Yeah. Honestly, if somebody wants to steal my identity and like maybe they could invest in something, maybe that might turn out better.
maybe they could boost my profile.
Yeah. How about you buy some? You guys, you clearly are connected to some stuff. Maybe you want to buy some Bitcoin, man.
Yeah, man. Somebody stole my identity in like 2012 and bought some Bitcoin. It'd be sitting pretty good, right?
Yeah. Apparently, I bought a property in Tuscany 15 years ago, and it's matured. It's like a monopoly, bank error in your favor.
That'd be funny. Well, what a weird week, man. Like in 1 week, Elon Musk buys Twitter. The Ministry of Truth comes out, or whatever the hell it is.
Oh, we didn't even get a chance to talk about that. Not that it would be anything new, but
yeah, and then Roe v. Wade possibly over. That's a big week in politics on a May. There's nothing going on. It's May.
May the month is young. I'm sure there'll be more stuff by next week.
Or April to May. Who cares? Weird times, man. The is what it is. All right, cool. Well, that was fun. All right, man. Well, have a good night. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Wait.
Outro.
The mic is muted when the music is playing.
This summer, you have to fight to survive. He sold tortillas on the street corner. Remember that? That was that old bit. No. It was like little Arnold Schwarzenegger is little tortilla boy.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I got it. It was that Pablo Francisco bit.
Oh, the guy who just did the.
He does.
Yes. Okay.
In the city, like all those trailer voices.
I don't think I can physically remember any of the actual bits. I remember that whole genre though.
Yeah,
that was funny.
I gotta look that up. That was some funny stuff.
Yes, I want to hear that again. That would be good. All right. That's my homework. I'm gonna look that up later.
Trailers are a lost art.
They really are.
Because trailers don't have voiceovers anymore. I think because everybody thought it was funny. Now it just has like text like rapidly expanding over, but like nobody does like, Warner Brothers Pictures cordially invites you, and there's dun 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 dun. You know what I mean?
Expect an invitation in the mail for.
Like, guess who's coming to dinner?
So right, okay. If we ever do a movie, Dan, that's what we're doing.
We got to do a trailer.
We're gonna write the trailer first, and then write the movie around it.
Yeah.
All right. On that note,
This
I'm going to
summer.
bed. Okay, later.